Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Hubar begins now.
Good evening. The extent of Tasmania's paramedic shortage has been revealed, with 100 shifts a week left vacant. Despite recent improvements in ambulance response times, the government's been told it's leaving Tasmanians in danger.
If you dial 000, you could be seen by a community paramedic.
We specialise in the low acuity cases, so these are the people that are potentially going to be waiting for long periods of time for our emergency ambulances.
12 of them are now working in Tasmania, looking to provide care in the home.
As we move forward, the more patients that we can avoid taking to hospital, the less impact or the greater impact that's going to have on our emergency departments.
With more demand than ever for urgent care, staffing problems are hitting Ambulance Tasmania. Over a 5-month period from November to March, 2,181 paramedic shifts were unfilled. That's more than 100 empty shifts per week.
It's dangerous not just for the paramedics who are sometimes having to go out on a job on their own, but it's dangerous for patients to be left in a situation where there's not enough ambulances, not enough paramedics, and they're in a state of emergency.
The union representing paramedics says it is leading to poorer outcomes for sick and injured Tasmanians.
Paramedicine is a difficult enough profession as it is, without the administrative burdens that are placed on paramedics, but also running relentless shifts with not sufficient staff.
The government recently made 97 paramedics permanent in the state budget. However, it didn't fund any extra positions.
With initiatives around secondary triage, the PACER initiative, the community paramedic initiative, our wait times are the lowest in some 18 months, down to 13.8 minutes. Improvements
being made as Tasmania's health system continues to stay in the spotlight. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
We'll move to some developing news now, and police are responding to reports of an old explosive materials found at Wynyard, which were discovered while a member of the public was gardening this afternoon. Authorities say there is no threat to the broader community, but a small perimeter has been established as a precaution. The state's road toll has risen after a 51-year-old man died from injuries sustained in a car crash near Hobart last week. He was travelling in a mini hatch when it collided head-on with a truck on Middle Tea Tree Road on June 22. The man was airlifted to the Royal Hobart Hospital for treatment, but passed away yesterday afternoon. Meanwhile, an elderly man has been seriously injured in Launceston after he was hit by a car while attempting to clear debris off Invermay Road this morning. The 74-year-old was struck by a Mercedes-Benz at around 5 o'clock. He was taken to the Launceston General Hospital in a serious but stable condition.
It's not a hit and run. The driver did stop. That driver was subject to breath and drug testing at the scene. We're still doing some inquiries in relation to the full circumstances.
Police are now calling for any witnesses or dashcam footage as investigations continue. The search for a missing tourist in the remote northwest has continued into a 4th day. Rescue efforts are now focusing on the Philosopher Falls waterfall, with personnel abseiling from the viewing platform to search the thick bushland and vegetation. Belgian woman Celine Cremer has not been seen for more than 2 weeks. Tasmania Police say medical advice suggests the weather conditions have not been survivable. The Premier has defended his government's hiring of a prominent lobbyist firm to run its media and communications. Font PR has been engaged to run the state government's media and communications unit for 2 months, while a permanent position is filled. The work will be exclusively undertaken by Daniel McKay, who recently became a partner.
We've got strict protocols, confidentiality agreements in place. Dan's not a lobbyist.
Lobbying is an activity. It's not about a label we give someone. If somebody engages in lobbying activity, then they should be captured by the way we regulate lobbyists.
Ms McKay was previously an advisor to Will Hodgman and Scott Morrison. The firm also owns and operates several Tasmanian newspapers. Racing Minister Madeleine Ogilvie has faced concerns about whether whistleblowers are being treated fairly. Fronting a Legislative Council inquiry into the Office of Racing Integrity today, Minister Ogilvie was grilled about a racing steward who spoke with media after concerns she raised were reportedly ignored. Labor says she's now been sent a warning by the department head.
Saying her behaviour may constitute serious or willful misconduct and or a breach of the Racing Stewards Code of Conduct, and appropriate action will be taken.
That's employment matter. It's a matter that I cannot provide any comment on here. It would be inappropriate to do so.
Respected steward Ray Murray has been given betting and technical analysis supports in his harness racing inquiry. New CCTV has been released which shows the last time missing teenager Cheyenne Lee Tatnall was seen in Launceston. It's hoped that the new vision will prompt memories and uncover new leads in the case 2 months after the 14-year-old vanished without a trace.
A young girl alone in the dark. Wearing a hoodie and shorts, she's walking in the cold along Henry Street towards Ravenswood. It's after 8 on a Sunday night, the teen believed to be on the way to see a friend. But Cheyenne Lee Tatnall never got that far.
And I think it's fair to say that everybody touched by this, not the least of which Cheyenne Lee's family, is significantly impacted by it.
Police today releasing CCTV in the hopes of jogging memories, 2 months after the teen disappeared.
So we're really keen to try and piece together Cheyenne Lee's movements on the night of her disappearance.
Almost every driver on Henry Street the night of April 30 has been tracked down. But police are still looking for this silver car, thought to be a sedan.
So the significance is unknown, but like everything, we're following every single possible line of inquiry that we can.
Searchers have returned to the North Esk River near Henry Street Bridge in the past weeks. So far, they've come up empty-handed. Next week, they'll be out again, combing the area by land and air. The last known sighting of Cheyenne was here on Henry Street 61 days ago. It's hoped a break in the case will come soon, as every moment without answers prolongs the agony for her family.
They are understandably still quite upset. It's a priority of us to continue to engage with them, to consult with Cheyenne Lee's mum to keep them in the loop of what we're doing.
Not giving up hope of finding her alive. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
The average owner of short-stay accommodation in Hobart has a portfolio worth $2.6 million, according to the Tenants' Union. They found the number by analysing permits in Hobart, saying it dispels the notion most holders are using the service to make ends meet.
It's clear that hosts are incredibly wealthy. Tasmania and Australia, for that matter, is becoming more and more a country and state of the haves and the have-nots.
Adding the findings should spur action to protect vulnerable Tasmanians.
Well, in terms of Airbnb, that's a matter for the local council. That's a matter for them.
The majority of those Airbnb permit holders for Hobart properties are Tasmanian individuals, not companies or mainlanders. A Northwest hub for veterans is adjusting to life without pokie machines. Devonport RSL becoming the last club to permanently switch them off. It comes as other venues prepare for a raft of changes which kick in at midnight.
Slots drying up. Devonport becoming the last RSL to bid farewell to pokies.
To be able to give veterans a place to come and relax and not have to worry about pokies.
They may have been the final RSL-run club to join the gambling exodus, but 5 weeks after they were rolled out of the building, they say it's still a no-brainer.
We've got a few pats on the back saying it was a good idea around town.
A pulling of the plug also welcomed by veterans and patrons of the venue.
The community has been quite supportive. We've probably lost a couple of patrons, nothing out of the ordinary, but we've just got to find out a way to bring other people back in here without the pokies.
As RSLs look to their slot-free future, time is ticking on the federal group's 50-year monopoly on the pokie game. Gambling reforms kick in from midnight, with venues across the state transitioning to owning or leasing machines.
The changeover happens today, so the machines have been turned off for the whole of today. We'll probably find out overnight and early tomorrow morning whether there's any issues.
The changes still being met with some criticism as the focus turns to more harm minimisation.
It's important that our policy settings really focus on problem gamblers and make sure that we can best support them when they do have a problem, but of course also avoid them having a problem in the first place.
I believe we are on a very good pathway to reducing addiction in, of course, that area.
Whether the big gamble pays off remains to be seen. Victoria Easto, 7 Tasmania News.
A 70-year-old pensioner who's been forced to take up part-time work to make ends meet says she feels let down by the government's energy policy. Fran Spears is unsure how she'll deal with a near 10% increase in power prices in effect from tomorrow.
You know, I don't do anything. I don't go anywhere. It's a little place. It shouldn't be hard to manage, but it gets worse and worse.
The Liberals said they would cap power prices if there was volatility within the national electricity market. There is volatility.
6 out of 10 Tasmanian households are eligible for a $250 rebate as part of the National Energy Bill Relief Program, partly funded by the state government. Petunia's environmental credentials are set to be boosted after pumping $13 million into new equipment. The recirculation aquaculture system is aimed at reducing reliance on flow-through technology for salmon stock. The company says mechanical and biological filters will allow them to reuse up to 99% of the water in its tanks, improving the site's sustainability. Safety at Tasmania's surfing events will be improved after the Surf Tasmania unveiled a new jet ski. Dubbed the Safety Ski, trained professionals will be out on the water for rescue situations and general water safety. The purchase welcomed across the surfing community after a number of near misses at Shipsterns Bluff in recent months.
We've had injuries where people have come close to death, and to have an extra layer of safety down there is pretty amazing and unlike any other location.
It will also be used at some other big wave locations and for events. A large group of vulnerable women aged 55 and over have made their way off the social housing waitlist and into long-term accommodation. Dozens of Tasmanians poured in to see Salvos cut the ribbon on the $9.5 million housing project. The development features 21 single and 2-bedroom units, as well as options for those living with a disability.
I've moved 4 times in the last 2 years. One property I was renting with some other people, and that's what it's come down to with the rise in rents.
There will be wraparound supports from our homelessness team from the Salvation Army, so they'll provide case management and additional supports that are needed.
The residents are expected to move in by the end of July. Tasmania is leading the country with an initiative to help young people diagnosed with asthma thrive in community sport. Hundreds of clubs are set to receive a free lesson on what to do in the case of an emergency, as well as tools needed to back up their knowledge.
For many children, community sport is an integral part of their lives, keeping them healthy and social. But for 1 in 8 Tasmanians diagnosed with asthma, it can be shrouded by anxiety and apprehension.
They often feel a bit afraid to play sport or get involved because they're worried that it might make their asthma flare up. But with the right support and the right medication, they can participate fully when they get their asthma under control.
Asthma Australia now helping to put their minds and health at ease, partnering with Clubs Tasmania to educate 300 sport facilities on what to do when an asthma attack strikes.
Your first step is go to your doctor and get a plan, but obviously if we can play a role to make sure that more people of all ages get active through community sporting clubs or the like, then it's a great outcome for everyone, and the more we can get people fit and active, the better it'll be for our health system long term.
The clubs will also receive an emergency kit packed with spaces required to take medication. The state government contributing $12,500 to the purple pouches, stating it recognises the great work that Asthma Australia does in educating communities and promoting the benefits of physical activity. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
East Coast movie buffs hungry for cinema will no longer have to make the trek to town, with a state-of-the-art theatre opening at St Helens. It's just the first phase of a multi-million-dollar redevelopment, hoping to keep locals and tourists coming back.
It's the new venture hoping to make St Helens pop. A boutique 48-seat theatre promising an elevated viewing experience.
It is like you're in another world, another universe. It is got the black velvet curtains, it's got the beautiful seats, big screen. The screen is much bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Hotly anticipated blockbuster Barbie is just one of the big-name Hollywood films set to feature. But the pint-sized cinema will also include some of the classics and family favourites.
And most of the pastimes here are daytime pastimes, so giving people something to do of an evening, whether you're local or whether you're a visitor, is so important.
It's just phase one of the building's $2 million redevelopment, with a goal of making sure tourists and locals have more to do in the evening.
People in St Helens and on the coast are crying out for activities like this. They come to the coast, they want to have a beachy holiday, but it does sometimes rain.
Plans are afoot for a bar and eatery to be built inside an old skate rink. The owners also recruiting top talent for an in-house microbrewery.
The rest of the building was all about, okay, where can people come and socialise and, really be well looked after.
They're hoping to have it all finished by summer next year. Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
Locally now, and Tasmania and Queensland state squads have had their final run ahead of tomorrow's clash. Players and coaches from the men's and women's sides are raring to go, with the winning contested ball expected to be the key to victory.
They are family, but come tomorrow, that will be put to one side. For Jordan and Josh Arnold, state and family pride are on the line.
The only footy we played against each other is in the backyard when we were kids, but obviously great occasion for the family. And
maybe mum, but I'm not sure. Hopefully there'll be someone that'll go for me.
Queensland and Tasmania had a final look around North Hobart Oval this afternoon.
I loved it. Love coming here. Traditional ground. It's going to be a good one.
They're really, really excited. I can tell that they're raring to go.
The men's match has a dash of AFL through it, including Richmond Premiership player Jacob Townsend. Tassie's coach believes contested footy will be key.
Whenever footy's played here, it's a big clearance battle, contest, tackles, that sort of things.
The men in maroon have their eyes on our attack.
All the forward line, the dangerous with Hines, Cox Goodyear, Siggins potentially might go down there on the weekend, but his ruck work's obviously very, very good.
Speed looking like the key factor in the women's contest.
We always knew they'd bring a little bit of that pace with them. That's their style of game up in the dry surface, that run and carry. And
smaller grounds go well and we tend to get higher scores. So, we're comfortable with this ground.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
In the NPL, and Devonport's coach is challenging his players to make their case for the club's upcoming trip to Queensland. Days after being drawn against the Gold Coast Knights in the Australia Cup, the club will face South Hobart on Saturday. They last met in the Lackaseldac final game in Devonport, where they won. The Strikers coach slammed South Hobart's tactics after the final, but he now says that's all in the past.
As far as I'm concerned, but we've got to prepare, we've got to be ready. We know what those certain players are going to do and target. We've just got to make sure that we're ready to deal with it.
Kick-off is at Valley Road tomorrow afternoon at 2:30. And with the Ashes Test underway at Lords, tonight's Friday flashback is to when a Tasmanian legend made the ground his own. In 1993, David Boone hit an unbeaten 164 at Lords, his first century on English soil, in a series jam-packed full of highlights.
Giving an inch of ground. While the first test in the 1993 Ashes tested the patience of both umpire and Pom, with Graham Gooch succumbing to the rare dismissal of handling the ball.
Oh, he's handled the ball, of course he has. He's got to give him out.
David Boone showed a deft hand in the second test at Lords. With 14 centuries to his name by that point, the Tasmanian could finally lay claim to one in England.
It's been relatively laborious, but he's got there. That's a big milestone for him.
The adulation came from the fans in the stands and the balcony flush with Aussie cricket talent. Indeed, he went on to 150 and ended up on an unbeaten 164. It set up what would be an easy victory for the visitors. Tim May trapped Mike Gatting. Warren had bad medicine for Gooch.
Bond's got him, beautiful delivery.
And Boone had an audience with Her Majesty the Queen.
Boone obviously felt that he needed a rest from fielding so he could speak to royalty.
In the end, those from the old colonies would be happiest most, the Aussies winning the test by an innings and 62 runs and celebrating accordingly. The series will be best remembered for Warren's ball of the century.
And he's done it. Gatting has absolutely no idea what has happened to it. He still doesn't know.
Graham Gooch's horror run.
I want to battle on. I want to try and turn it round for England.
Ending with him losing the England captaincy and Australia's all-out dominance of the 93 Ashes.
Takes the catch to win the series.
Being a high of Aussie cricket. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
And Heather Graham has been named in the Australian squad for the upcoming ODI tour in Ireland following the Ashes. The Tigers and Hurricane star will represent the country with their first match on July 23rd.
Good evening. Hobart, Launceston and Devonport all 16 today. Burnie slightly cooler with a top of 14. It was also 16 in St Helens, 14 the common temperature for the islands, Smithton, Low Head, Maria Island, Grove and Bushy Park, 12 for Strawn and 7 for Lyweenie. Now we also had the highest rainfall reported at Mount Reid with 101 millimetres. Overcast low cloud is seen over the west and south with mostly high cloud elsewhere about the state. An extensive cloud band extends from the Kimberley through southern parts of the Northern Territory and over southern Queensland. There are also patches of low-level cloud over the southern half of the country with mostly cloudy conditions for Tasmania. Tomorrow, a very large high lies over the Bight, extending over most of Australia. A trough moves near eastern Gippsland. To coastal waters, southwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots, easing to 15 to 25 knots about the west and north during the afternoon. In the west and south, swells southwesterly 3 to 4 metres. Mild conditions in the north. The east can expect southerly swells 1 to 2 metres, tending southwesterly 2 to 4 offshore in the south. There is a strong wind warning between Sandy Cape and Low Rocky Point and also Storm Bay. Tomorrow, early showers for Hobart 11 degrees, showers easing in Medina, cloudy and 9 for Oatlands. Launceston and Devonport partly cloudy 14, a cool day in store for Lyweenie with 14 degrees. Burnie and Marrawar both 13, easing showers for Strawn. And to the east coast, St Helens and Swansea, cloudy conditions, expecting 13 there. Orford expecting a morning shower and 12. And to the 3-day forecast, Sunday, mainly fine apart from light showers about the west and far south. There are areas of morning frost and possible fog also. Monday also fine apart from light showers about the southwest. Morning frost continues there. Showers developing about the north in the morning, extending statewide during the afternoon with patchy morning frost. To our mainland capital cities tomorrow, Perth, sunny and 17, Brisbane 21, Adelaide morning showers and 14 for Melbourne. And currently Hobart cloudy 11 degrees, also 11 and partly cloudy in Launceston, partly cloudy again in Devonport. Now Lou, we've made it to the end of another week and another financial year. Have a lovely weekend.
And that's all your news for now. I'll be back later on with updates and I'll see you again tomorrow with a full bulletin. Have a lovely evening. Good night.